So the pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for
which it stands, one nation, under God, divisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I didn't roll call, if NVCOG can give a roll call. Ray Rogozinski, a Director of Public Works, City of Bristol.
Paul Benevich, Water Compound Engineer. Jerry Lukowski, Director of Public Works, Watertown.
Tom Doherty, Environmental Planner, NVCOG. Tayo Laleye, Transportation Planner, NVCOG.
Anthony Lagana, Transportation Planner, NVCOG.
Patricia Bruder, Clerk.
Nicole Sullivan, Sustainable Communities Planner at NVCOG.
Kate Keepa, Transportation Planner at NVCOG.
Rich Donovan, the Transportation Planning Director here at NVCOG.
Kevin Ellis, a Transportation Engineer at NVCOG. And then anyone who's online.
Sheila O'Malley, City of Ansonia, Shelton, I don't know which. Okay.
Yeah.
Jim Stewart, Public Works, Naugatuck.
And Mark Nielsen, NVCOG.
Hi, Donna Shea, Teacher Center at UConn. Nice to see you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, Bill.
Oh, Phil.
Well, Bill.
Hey guys. Sorry, I had to find the mute button for a second.
Now I think we have everybody.
We got Matt from Southbury.
Yep, Matt Tarnowski.
Unmute, Matt.
We have a quorum. Right?
Depends on how many towns you want to count, Sheila.
I can count me as 3 if you want.
Then we're good.
Okay.
Okay, next item, public comments. Anybody from the general public this week? Approval of the June 4th, 2025 meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
So
I'll make a motion, Sheila.
Yeah. There's a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Transportation planning, Vision Zero plan discussion, Rich?
Yeah, so as you hopefully all remember, we were awarded a Safe Streets for All planning grant back in the 2023 selection. And so we've finally been under contract on that and getting work started. One of the elements to that project is we have to have like a governing body who oversees the development of that project and or of that plan, provides comments and helps establish goals and does the review process. And so given the timeline on it and given this body's intended function, we want to just use TTAC to be that governing body. So we're going to go through some of the details of that plan today. At our next meeting, we'll have some draft materials to share for comment and review. And then at our December meeting, we'll have a draft plan to go through. We are doing this plan all in-house. We're hoping to be done with it by the end of December. I go through a public comment period in early spring and then wrap up the plan by the beginning of March. Very importantly about this plan, it is the document that will allow you all to submit for any future Safe Streets implementation rounds. Projects that are not in this document are technically not eligible for implementation under that program. We have been hearing that program is very popular and will hopefully be continued into the next transportation authorization next year. Although we won't know that until something happens. There's a good chance that there's some continuing resolutions and other steps along the way there. But
Rich, sorry, through you, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry to interrupt, but so how do we solicit projects? Like how do you solicit projects from the municipalities, or how does the process work?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's something that Nicole will talk about in a minute or two. But one of the things we are doing right now is trying to meet with all 19 towns to go through identified problem areas, any kind of anecdotal evidence about where there are problems, and then projects that are already on the table. And so anything that's in our last transportation safety action plan from 2022 will get carried forward. That hasn't been implemented yet. Will get carried forward into the new plan. We'll meet with all of the towns to gather information about where you perceive the biggest problems, so we can put some kind of an implementation step at those locations. And then we'll have a period, around the time of the next TTAC meeting where we look for any projects that didn't make it onto the list that need to be on the list. So the other element to this, though, is because it is such a data-driven plan, because it has to be data-driven, we will also be identifying the most dangerous locations across the region and putting some kind of an implementation step for all of those locations. Even if we don't know exactly what that project's going to look like, we'll have an element in the plan that allows for a future project to take place there. And so, and then, lastly, we'll have some of the systemic type options that apply everywhere. We'll talk about sidewalk gap filling anywhere there are sidewalk gaps. We'll talk about implementation of signage replacements or new signage programs. Anything that can cover the region as a whole that could be relevant in any location in your towns. So it's ultimately how we made the last one work well for us. We had some pretty broad implementation items that have applied across projects in different towns. But we do want to get anything that is a priority for your towns into the plan. We want to make sure that we get anything that's already on the list in there so that it could be funded under a different source in the future. But then, so the ultimate point here is that it's really going to be an action plan more so than it's going to be just a broad, here's the problem plan. And so we'll be looking at a 5-year period. We will be doing updates to this very regularly, whether or not the Safe Streets program continues to exist at the federal level. Evaluating the top crash locations historically, the progress we've made in those locations of implementing projects or any programs to address those safety issues, and then a measurement of safety against those. The other thing we're going to be doing, so we, as MPOs, is the full host agency for the CNV MPO and the co-host agency for the GBB MPO. We are responsible for either adopting the statewide safety performance targets or creating our own. An element of this plan is that, at least for the CNV MPO, we will be adopting our own targets. And that will not only require us to do the work to identify those targets, but then we will have to report on those going forward. And so we'll have that extra information each year about our progress over time. Back in September of 2022, when we adopted the Vision Zero goal initially, we had set a target date of 2060 for eliminating fatalities and serious injuries. We know that full elimination of all fatalities and serious injuries is really ambitious, but we also think it's very worthwhile. And so our strategy is going to be to look at, based on our current performance, what is the annual reduction we need to get there? And then every 5 years or so, when we do significant updates to this plan, we'll reevaluate those targets and adjust accordingly. So right now we're in the data analysis and some of the background work phase on this project. We have I know, like I said, Nicole will talk about this in a minute, but she's had meetings with a couple of towns already and has quite a few more set up. If you don't have one scheduled already, she'll work with you on that to get something done. In that meeting, we are bringing some of the data that we already have, some of the analysis that's already been done to identify the top crash locations, the most dangerous spots within your communities. As well as then we want to hear from you, from your police departments, from anybody in town who is involved, where there are hotspots that either don't get reflected in the data, places where there are a lot of near misses that don't show up in crash data, or places that you know of that are real problems. And so just, on the screen right now, we have some of the core tenets of Vision Zero, which is that in order for this plan to work, we have to believe that traffic deaths and serious injuries are preventable, that they're not an inevitability. A key element, one of the big differences in Vision Zero planning versus traditional roadway safety planning is that we have to account for the fact that drivers are going to make mistakes and pedestrians are going to make mistakes. And so rather than trying to eliminate all crashes, which is kind of the traditional roadway safety approach, we want to eliminate those that are most likely to cause severe damage. And if you go forward one slide, Kevin, I think you have this, right? Yeah. There's a couple of ways we do this, but fundamentally it comes down to a system that's really duplicative in its safety elements. And that reduces the amount of energy when a crash happens. And so the kinetic energy formula is really important when it comes to this work. And our goal in almost every case is where there may be conflict to reduce the amount of kinetic energy that would get transferred between vehicles or between vehicles and people. So we'll have a lot more information about this for the next meeting, but if you go one more slide, just a kind of a quick view of the region here. And I realize for those of you in the room, it's a little bit hard to see. These are the fatal injuries and the serious, or the fatal crashes and the serious injury crashes that occurred last year here in our region. Obviously, we have some clusters, but you'll see they do happen pretty widespread throughout the region. And so every town, all 19 towns are part of this planning effort. We do need to address these serious injuries and fatalities across all 19 towns to ever hit that target of 0. And so we'll be, we'll be looking at everything here. We are fortunate that CONDOT is in a similar place, looking at these serious injuries and fatalities. And as part of the USDOT's Safe Roads Initiative, they are actually putting a plan together on some of the most dangerous non-limited access arterials. And so they're looking at the roads in your communities that are state-owned or locally owned, I guess, that there are arterial roads that account for the majority of these crashes. You can see some pretty clear lines here where these arterials account for the majority of this. So before I pass it off to Nicole, I want to open it up for any questions or any discussion about this, and then we'll keep sending information out. We'll keep revisiting what we're working on with this group over the next couple of months.
Just maybe I guess just for clarification, there was just a round of grant submittals. But this is one you already have. This is the notifications for the new grant one have not come out yet.
Correct. Yeah.
Bristol submitted one. I was actually on vacation, but I believe there was a question, but NVCOG assisted us in we respond.
Yeah, and we got Don sent confirmation yesterday that USDOT accepted that response and addressed all the concerns. So
yeah, I would say just looking down the agenda, there's to me, there's a couple items that kind of fit the same category, and maybe it's to me like we go on words together, and maybe because I don't have a clear understanding of like there's Vision 0, there's complete streets, there's safe streets for all. Maybe I kind of meld them together all to one. Maybe that's wrong. Well, maybe sometimes I can explain what the difference of the various initiatives are.
Yeah.
But I can tell you just as a practical application, once again, I share this with the group, not that, it's Bristol focused, but we just painted shared bike lanes on some of our roads. We're not even complete yet. When social media has certainly expressed their, opinion. I believe the exact wording was something to the effect of, who's the idiot that decided to install bike, symbols on their roads? They should be fired and put down their crack pipe, but honestly, I get it. I get why people are concerned, and unless I change my mind between here and going back, to the office, I'm literally gonna put something on our social media saying, please be advised, City of Bristol has, our Department of Public Works, is initiated installing bike paths, and we still have more to go. Here's the plan of where they're going, and it's consistent with our recently approved complete streets policy. To notify resident, drivers where, that they should be alerted of potential for bike paths, and honestly, we're gonna continue to do this. We're gonna continue to look at narrowing roads, installing islands, curbside rumble strips to try to, reduce speeds. And I'm sure they'll have 500, comments, and that will be constructive input for the city of Bristol that we would assess, potentially. Potentially even shocking to our council people, and maybe we can change policy of it, but I'll try to use it as a legitimate discussion,
Yeah. So
it's if I'm not here next meeting, it's been nice working with you, but and honestly, I can retire tomorrow, so don't worry about me.
Sounds like a rough spot to be in. No, so unfortunately, it's something I think we all agree that eliminating fatalities and serious injuries is a priority. I don't think there's anybody who would come out and say that we're against that. But the actual implementation of that is very controversial and requires a lot of political will. It requires a lot of education and thick skin because our residents don't always love it. Going back to that conversation about the kinetic energy formula, the best way to achieve safer roads is to reduce speeds. But people perceive reduced speeds as you are increasing the amount of time it takes me to get to where I need to go.
Yeah.
And often we're talking about a measurement of seconds, but when you add it up over time, it's a real trade-off.
Mhm.
And so the question does come down to, in a community, how much are we willing to trade off those couple of seconds on every trip for the safety of everybody? And, we see over and over, once a project is in place and it's the way it is, people get used to it and it's not something that we question anymore. But when that first change happens, it really is difficult. And it takes a lot of commitment from our elected leaders, from our staff, city engineers and public works directors to stand behind those things, especially when they are publicly unpopular.
Well, I guess my thing is, honestly, I'm not even offended by those, comments, because I swear to God, I understand the general public's concern.
Mhm.
And I don't think the general public's concern should be dismissed.
Right.
I actually don't even agree that they necessarily, become satisfied with it. Maybe the region just stops hearing complaints, but I can tell you.
Well, yes,
we
that's,
continue to hear complaints, at the local level, but that is the trend. We do truly want to reduce travel speeds within the city. And we're gonna do that by a series of measures, or a decision is gonna be made not to do it,
Mhm. And we see, you're right, that like they get used to it does not mean they're happy with it. They just not complaining about it as much. But one of the things we see is that the cities that really invest in this type of thing see a lot of other benefits that come from it. The economic development of people moving slower is pretty notable, and the extra pedestrian activity, especially in downtown or commercial areas, is notable. And there are side effects that the public don't see when they see that extra couple seconds on their drive that end up playing out over time. But you're also right that residents are the ones who will help drive this conversation and should be involved in that decision. And to that point, one of the things we're working on now and trying to push forward is a plan to have a resident-driven traffic calming approach. Here for Waterbury, we've been working on this for a while now. We have a draft of a plan together that allows the city to get requests and act on those requests. Based on data and based on everything else that goes into it, but that rather than it being always the city is going to do this approach, it is let residents help advocate for those same changes.
Now, one thing that I am adamant, about is when to make informed decisions as part of get a consensus in policy, make informed decisions in part of, design. So when we do a streetscape project downtown, and we get a call from people and say, what are you, an idiot? Now I can't drive, a tractor trailer truck, I can't make the radius. The answer isn't, oh man, let me look into it, see if we can improve it. The answer has to be, yes, we looked at that during the design process. You're gonna have to find an alternate route to get where you're going, it has to be, we're not apologizing for it. It's consistent with our policy. And if the policy, is gonna be changed, then the policy is gonna be changed,
The other part though too is this on the police enforcement side, for the speed. The big thing I recently saw is Middletown installed their speed cameras. And some of the news is the first month that they were in place, over $600,000 in that month of enforcement of tickets. I was driving through there and I just noticed the entire road slowed down. And I was like, what's going on? And I saw and then I slowed down too. It just about got me, but the next day it did get my daughter and I saw what the ticket looks like. But I could see there's a half dozen towns going after them. But I could see in the next 5 years that just about every town's gonna have these cameras. Because it definitely affected the traffic on Route 66 going into Middletown.
Once again, I believe that. I didn't,
Yeah.
once again, I've been, on vacation. I heard about Middletown there, but Washington Depot was the first one. I don't even know where they are, but I drive anywhere in Washington Depot, I'm driving the speed limit. I even think it has that effect.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know where.
And so we actually do have an update on automatic
could-
traffic enforcement
If
that
you
we'll
could
share.
let me know where they are, that would be a value.
Well, our goal is really the opposite. We're driving slow through the whole time. No, but we do have a legislative update about some changes to that program that make it much more favorable to towns. You know, we know that the first implementation was tough. Honestly, we will never really achieve zero fatalities and serious injuries without automated enforcement. It's an element we'll never, no matter how much we try, we'll never be able to enforce everything all the time. But automated enforcement offers a lot of advantages in that sense. And so we have some resources we can share. Well, like I said, Drew's gonna share a legislative update. We'll talk more about that, but that is an important part of getting to this no injuries or fatalities. I think it was at our last TTAC meeting, we talked a little bit about this, but the best automated enforcement programs generate no tickets. Like that's the goal, is to put as many cameras in place as will generate no tickets because people are following the rules. And we look at the countries that lead in this stuff, especially Sweden, who developed the Vision Zero concept originally. Anytime they have a camera that stops generating revenue or stops generating tickets, they double down in that location and add more cameras around it because they see that it's effective, they see that it's working. And that's where they know that they're making the impact that they had intended to make. And so we will in this plan include information about automated traffic enforcement as well as the ability to use the Safe Streets program to help fund future camera implementations if you choose to do so. I know West Hartford has used the Safe Streets program to help fund their program. Although that may be a little bit less relevant following some of the changes in this last legislative session.
And then I just have one more thing, and sorry to bounce along, Public Works in Bristol just took over maintenance responsibility for traffic signals from this department, and honestly, it's, to be determined whether we can maintain them better than, the police department. But it's my intention to be much more, proactive, because as much as we want to slow down travel speeds, I also wanted, reduce delays through traffic signals, so I want our traffic signals, operating more efficiently my intent would be to, slow down traffic speeds, but increase, slow down traffic speeds, but decrease delay through traffic signals, so people aren't waiting as long.
Yeah, it's a great call out. And so another element that we will be looking at and we'll be talking about not only is this plan, but in a future planning effort is where signals can be removed and replaced with either some other stop control intersection type or with a roundabout. We know that owning, maintaining and replacing signals over time is incredibly expensive and has only gotten, like 10x in the last 10 years or so. And I can't imagine they're going to get cheaper anytime soon. And so the more we can, instead of just replacing signals over and over and over again, if we can remove them in places where traffic will flow better and be safer, that is I think a win for everybody. And so something else we'll be looking at and talking about. But to that point, if we can maintain the same total travel time, but reduce the travel speed, that is about as big a win as we can ever hope for.
But that did take us a little while. Any, any questions or general information specifically on Vision Zero Fund? If not, NVCOG's Comprehensive Regional Transportation Safety Plan. Nicole?
Thank you. Following up on what Rich just noted, NVCOG was awarded USDOT funding under the SS4A program. And that's to develop a comprehensive regional transportation safety action plan for this region.
It's the same plan. I realize we use two different words here. They are the same plan.
So many names. But we're seeking to interview representatives of the local traffic authority, as well as other staff who have knowledge and understanding of transportation safety issues within the community and can speak to specific high crash locations. The intent of this project is to identify these locations and develop countermeasures to address the safety issues and reduce the incidence of fatalities and serious injuries. At this time, 13 of 19 municipalities have interviews scheduled, but we are seeking to fill the rest of this month with the remaining municipalities. So if anyone has any questions, you can reach out to me and I'll be reaching out to you if you don't have an interview scheduled yet. Thank you.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah, Ray, this is Mark. Just to follow up on Nicole, we have had two interviews that took place yesterday, and Sonia and Seymour, and both discussions went very well. The representatives from the police department were very engaged in our efforts and voiced a lot of support and willingness to help. So we're hoping to get a lot of good feedback and information through this interview process. And like I said, if yesterday's meetings were any we're our typical, we're going to have some really good discussions and help really guide what we're going to include in the action plan. So we encourage anybody at the TTAC meeting today to attend these interviews. It's open to, as Nicole mentioned, not just the LTA or the police department, but other staff are welcome as well. So we'll keep you posted.
Thank you. No other comments, questions? Just moving on, pedestrian data collection priorities.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is a carryover item from last TTAC. We are trying to reiterate the fact that our staff are available to provide technical assistance in collecting data on our roads in our municipalities. If you need data about traffic counts, speeds, 85th percentiles, average speeds, or maybe any corridors where there have been safety concerns or traffic issues or crashes, we are available to provide that assistance for you. We have done so for a few municipalities in the last few months. Please feel free to use a QR code or fill a form in that link provided, and we'll be willing to assist.
Thank you.
We'll send the link out so you don't have to remember it, but if you can remember it, then you get moved to the top of the list.
Thank you. Thanks for the information. Once again, we're trying to move forward, and so we may contact you and request assistance.
Yeah, they came out to Watertown, and great assistance. They last for about a week on the polls. And it really gave us some great information that we didn't have before. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next item, active transportation municipal snapshot.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This summer, NVCOG has been lucky to host a Sustainable CT Fellow, Ashlyn Parinello, who is a rising junior at Wesleyan University. Throughout the summer, you may have chatted with her about active transportation in your respective municipality. Thank you to those who were able to attend one of those 30-minute chats. From these conversations, Ashlyn has put together a fact sheet for each municipality on projects, facilities, and plans related to active transportation in coordination with the regional active transportation plan we are working on. Now, you can expect to hear from us to check over the fact sheet that we have assembled. So please look out for a communication from me with the completed fact sheet for your review. Ashlyn is finishing up her time with us next week, and shortly after, she will be heading to Copenhagen to study abroad, and will surely experience more active transportation and action there. So we wish her well and thank her for her time that she has spent on this project.
Any questions or comments?
We want this to be something that you all can use as you're applying for grants, as you're bragging about the work your town has done. So please do take a look when Kate sends them out. Let us know if there's anything that you would, that we've missed that you want highlighted, but ideally this will be something that translates into value for all of you.
Next item, RSA training Watertown.
Okay. Thanks again. Okay, so as some of you know, we have been starting work on an RSA program here within NVCOG. As a reminder, a road safety audit is the formal safety performance examination of an existing or future road or intersection by a multidisciplinary team, which would include members of our team and then municipal staff from public works, engineering, and public officials. The purpose is to answer the following questions. What elements of the road may present a safety concern? To what extent, to which road users, and under which circumstances? And then what opportunities exist to eliminate or mitigate identified safety concerns? So the cornerstone of this process is to then go in the field and visit the location, walk the corridor, and identify issues and concerns in real time. And then a formal report follows. So the NVCOG transportation team has already performed one of these road safety audits for Thomaston Avenue and Waterbury and is currently working on one for Baldwin Street. Going forward, our plan is to take on several more of these requests each year. We are currently figuring out the funding sources to be able to provide this service, the menu of options for municipalities, and then the process for a municipality to apply. Leading up to this intake process, we have worked now with the T2 Center to provide a special training on the RSA process here in our region. So in coordination with Watertown and Jerry and Paul, you are invited to join us at the Watertown Fire Headquarters at 935 Main Street on October 22nd for an RSA training for our region. The registration for the day will start at 8 a.m. and the session will kick off at 8:30 and run until 3 p.m. Lunch will be provided. There will be a field exercise as part of the class. So on the screen, you can see a URL or a QR code to register. We also have flyers here in the room. So please do register. We're keeping registration open first for the 19 municipalities in our region, and then we will open up to the rest of Connecticut. So please, if you do plan on attending, please share with your colleagues. Sign up first before we open up registration to everyone else. So I thank you again to Jerry and Paul and the Watertown Fire Department for hosting. We look forward to having this training right here in our region. I could take any questions, but I also want to note that Donna from the T2 Center will be speaking right after me, and she will have several more resources to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? I am familiar with the program, very good program. Just moving on, T2 Center update, Donna?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Kate, and thank you, Ray. Thanks, nice to see you all. So Jason Hughes, who many of you I hope have already had the opportunity to work with, is your NVCOG representative from the T2 Center. He had the fortunate opportunity to take his son to the Baseball Hall of Fame this week for their vacation. So that's why I'm very happy to be with you today. So I wanted to, and of course I wrote down 3 other things listening to your conversations before this that I think will be helpful. But yes, we are very excited to partner with you all to offer the RSA training on October 22nd. Our team does a very nice job with this. You'll get out in the field, and we're very happy that Watertown has a few opportunities for us to take a look at some of the things that they want us to react to in town, and you can have an opportunity to do an actual RSA together that day. I will say, Rich, I appreciate your mention of the safe system approach, because all of the road safety trainings that the T2 Center provides works within that framework. So we're very consistent about sharing this statewide. So I think that'll support your efforts, and we'll be kind of supporting each other's opportunity to talk within that frame. So while I had you today, I wanted to talk a little bit also about some other training opportunities that are coming up. The second one is our ADA self-assessment and transition plans training that will be happening in Simsbury. You'll have the opportunity to work with my team, but also Katie Hedberg from the DOT will be presenting their kind of next steps. And I know that NVCOG is working closely with them in their transition plan pilot projects. So you'll have the opportunity to hear from Katie. You'll have the opportunity to be in the field. NVCOG was one of the first planning agencies to invite us down to have a lunch and learn on our ADA kit, where you had the opportunity to use the wheelchairs and the goggles, and we have a brand new age simulation suit you'll be having a chance to work with in this training. So I think you're all very interested in this topic, and I just wanted to make sure that there was another opportunity for you to send new staff members, other members in the town that might have not had this opportunity to work with us on this training. So I just wanted to make sure you knew that you're very welcome to join us for that. Next up, I know that you all probably know already that we've been successful in getting a next round of speed feedback signs to give out to every city and town in Connecticut, and also our tribal community members. So Jason will be coming to every one of your towns with your 2 more free speed feedback signs. So we're looking forward to those opportunities to support you in this way. This was really our partnership with the DOT. The commissioner received many positive feedbacks from the towns about the first round. So he came to us and said, is there an opportunity for your team to do this again? And both Jason and Sean are very excited to be able to get these out to you all. I will say when Ray was talking about education of community members, an interesting thing came up about these speed feedback signs related to kind of what people are seeing for the speed cameras. So we actually started to get a few questions about, okay, when do I get my ticket from the speed feedback sign? I know it's recording my plate, and we just thought, oh, whoa, no, that's not what this is. This is a whole different thing. So we actually worked with Watch from ECT to develop a community education piece that very clearly explains that what the speed feedback signs are, but that they are not cameras that are taking your plates down, and you won't be receiving a ticket from these particular things. But yes, to Middletown's work about this. So this is one of the things that we have for you available as a resource. When we deliver your signs, we'll share with you the community education piece, because if you have this question, better to kind of get to it from nip it in the bud initially, so you don't have to deal with that kind of feedback from the community. So it's a very positive program. We're really excited to be able to do this work. The first round, we had 98% participation from the towns. And what's exciting is the very few towns that said no the first time, for whatever reason, some were staffing, they didn't have the staff to put these, there were, whatever their reasons were, it was fine, but they've already said yes this time. So that's pretty exciting. I mean, if we can get 100% on this, I'll be over the moon. And as aligning with the program is a free speed management training. Mike Nodler and Francis from UMass Amherst are nationally known for their work in speed management, and they have an excellent class. So I just wanted to offer that as another opportunity for training. Either of those days have space available. So just wanted to plant a few seeds for opportunities for your team. I will say for NVCOG, as you're adding new staff members to your team, your NVCOG folks are welcome to any of these trainings. We would love to have you. We love the partnership with you all. And the last thing I want to mention, or 2 things really, you talked about ATESD. I just want to mention that over the last 2 years, the Teacher Center has kept very closely connected to the communities that are applying for this. And we've been having in-person roundtable discussions with the panel of towns that are applying, talking about, we had a little conversation with vendors that may be in the future as well. But we've really been trying to keep closely connected to you. So we asked the community, what is it next? What do you want to know next about this? And of course, they said, we want to know the challenges that are happening as a result of the applications coming in, challenges for implementation. We want to know about any legislative changes. So I appreciate the update you're providing on that. So we are going to be having another virtual roundtable in the fall. We'll send the information out. That might be a nice opportunity for you to hear from towns like Washington and Middletown and New Haven and Stamford and everyone who's applying and who might want to share their story. So it's just another opportunity for us to try to provide information on that. And lastly, I know you all know that there is legislation that requires LTAs to come to the T2 Center for training. So we will have the LTA or their designee. So we will have another round of both virtual and in-person free training opportunities for that in the fall. So we'll let you know about that. But if your LTA or designee has not had the opportunity yet, you'll have an opportunity this year to meet that requirement. So that's just a few of the many things we have going on. So happy to answer questions or get feedback.
once again, I happen to be, familiar with T2 Center. I sit on one of their advisory committees for traffic signals and certainly a very good organization. And, I do think they provide a lot of training to municipalities. Any questions or comments on T2 Center's installation? Thank you very
Thank
much,
you so
Donna.
much. Oh, sure thing. Nice to see you all.
Legislative update?
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are a few public acts listed on this slide that I'm happy to run through, but I will also say that just this past week, the Connecticut Office of Legislative Research has released a report of acts called Acts Impacting or Affecting Transportation. So Rich and I have reviewed that report, and what we're going to aim to do is to send that all to all of you individually. And then maybe we can start a conversation via that thread with any questions you might have, and then we can answer back for the whole group to have the benefit of that. But there are a lot more things that came through legislatively that I think we even realized post-session. So that is a fully comprehensive report of everything that would be relevant to transportation. Specifically in the slide here, we have the Public Act 2555, which just has to do with motor vehicle towing. And that is changes some things as it relates to both public entity towing and private towing in terms of timelines and penalties for blocking driveways and things like that. So that's a pretty detailed bill. So I didn't want to get into the nitty-gritty with it, but that will be included in the report certainly that we send out. Street takeovers, which we've talked about previously, probably at our last two TTAC meetings. That did really pick up some great provisions as it relates to being able to work on an ordinance in your town for street takeovers. And that's one thing I do want to bring up. Many of these things are going to require municipal ordinance, so we'll probably flag those ones for you so that you can work them up the flagpole in your towns to your mayors, or your selectmen, or your town councils to try to get some of these things on the books, because minus the ordinance, you have no mechanism to enforce. The act increasing the threshold for sealed bidding, this is relevant to you as well. Now you're going to be able by ordinance to increase your bid threshold from 25,000 to 35,000. So useful now, especially with inflation and some of the increased costs of things. 25,000 doesn't quite get you what it used to get you. So, and then finally, last but not least, in the bond bill under section 60, there is a provision about the failure to file your town aid road annual reporting on time. Failure to do so would result in a 10% penalty in your town aid road award. However, there's a appeal process and everything in there. So I think they're kind of slow walking what will be probably increased penalties in the future, but they did put that in this year. So if you have any questions about these, feel free. Otherwise, like I said, Rich and I will probably start that communication, and we'll have our staff on there as well via email to be able to really share all the other bills with you as well.
I guess my only comment was there any discussion about increasing the requirement for bidding above 35,000?
I'm sure there, I didn't see it specifically, but I think it might have started at somewhere around 50, and there was some balking on that and it got knocked back down. I certainly can look into the detail of how that went through the course of the committee process, but I'm vaguely recalling that might have been early on in the transportation committee, that might have been the number, and then this was the compromise.
But it probably was stuck at 25 for the past decade or so.
I think longer than that. Rich, you have any idea? I think it's been longer
It's been
than
a very
that.
long time.
Yeah.
Maybe that's an education process too, realizing that definitely increases the amount of time it takes to implement a project. And that somewhat answers the question, why does it take government to do so many things so quickly?
And we had a situation in one of our municipalities with the community connectivity award that was probably 6 or 7 years old now, 8 years old. And the community had turned over leadership, and the project kind of sat there, and it was a two-pronged project. At this point, they're lucky if they can do one of the two prongs, one of the two intersections that were originally approved and priced out. So we're seeing those things happen, and that's important provision there.
thanks for the information. Any comments or questions or?
Yeah, I just want to add, we don't have it up on the screen and I forget the number offhand. The DOT's bill, the bill implementing the recommendations of the DOT this year was pretty sizable and has quite a bit. But the two big ones I want to call out, the first is, you may remember in the last couple of years, we've had some issues with the DOT doing rights of way for trails for any federally funded projects that are directly funded to towns. This was because of a quirk in the language that of the legislation that allowed the DOT to do right of way on behalf of towns that was very specific about the circumstances. And it was written at a time when federal aid from Federal Highway Administration to towns for direct projects was not something that happened. IJA changed that, but the state legislation didn't change. And so DOT has not been able to do rights of way for certain projects with certain funding sources. But that has been changed in this cycle. That was, it has been a big sticking point for a couple of years. And so I wanted to bring that one forward because that's an important one for a lot of our projects moving forward, especially related to greenways and trails. And then the other one, like I mentioned, the speed camera legislation has been updated a bit. One of the biggest changes was that previously you had to pay for the full installation upfront. You were not allowed to effectively revenue share any ticket revenue with vendors. That has been changed. And we know that had been a sticking point for a lot of towns. You know, we've been seeing as much as $30,000 per camera with up to 4 cameras per intersection for red light cameras. And so the costs were pretty astronomical as the startup on this. Although then the town was able to collect all of the ticket revenue over time. This change allows towns in Connecticut to do what towns in the rest of the country do and effectively revenue share over time the ticket revenue from those cameras. You know, again, best case scenario is that they're not writing tickets, but the reality is that they will be for a long time. And so this reduces that initial startup cost, which was a burden that was insurmountable for many towns.
What's the average cost to put one in?
Like I said, we had heard about 30,000 per camera, and depending on the number of cameras needed at the location, plus whatever controllers or signal upgrades or anything else that might have been required, we could be talking about a pretty hefty chunk of change to do this.
Payback looks like 2 to 3 days, so.
Yeah. But so this allows for that to not be quite as burdensome up front, especially now that we see the amount of revenue that some of these cameras can generate. You know, vendors are much more easily engaged in this model.
I would say, just back to your slide, I'm ashamed to say, what town, you know, aid road annual report are they referring to? So in this, for us, like all municipalities, mayor always goes to the mayor's office, always get something, how many roads, you know, miles you do, we'll pull that out. What, you know, so there's that's easy enough. But then last year, we got a report that went to the mayor's office, you know, ultimately, it was like complete your annual, you know, report. They got kicked to the comptroller's office. It was about roads. They had questions on it. And I was like, oh, well, it's public, you know, it's roads, public works will look at it. I looked at it, honestly, it was deep into like the financing of, you know, and we've been up to speed on that. And ultimately, it was, we contacted the state and it's like, oh no, this is the first year we ever gave it, you know, to the municipalities. I think we even Bristol called, you know, NVCOG. So what annual report are they talking about? The basic one of how many miles you have, or the one that had requested a lot of financial information?
It's gonna be that financial report, so it's what's known as the FHWA Series
Can you
500.
forward that to us?
Yeah. And so it's a requirement from the Federal Highway Administration to the state DOT. They have to account for all of the money that is the local money that is being spent by towns on local roads. Effectively, so that Federal Highway can come back and say, this is the total amount across the country that's being spent on the roadway network. This year, they did it as a Google form, as a form of some kind, that they then collected all that information and were able to submit it back up to the Federal Highway Administration that way. We know that some towns had a hard time with the information, the way it was being asked and what was being asked. We also, you know, we worked with a few towns who missed the initial deadline to make sure that they got it done. We will continue to push DOT to make it simpler to fill out, make it we were what they're asking for, and to make sure the towns have enough time to do so. But it is that Federal Highway Administration Series 500 form that they're talking about here.
Once again, if you can just forward that, all, to us, because. I was offended, but it was also like this is an annual report. And I'm like, we never filled it out before, we never did,
Mhm.
we never were asked to fill it out,
Right. Yeah, we had the same reaction.
Well, I think it's more not public works directors, it's more the fiscal
Yeah.
office. So I got on, searched it, I saw OPM in the controller's office on YouTube. They had an hour-long briefing on it, 60, 70 towns around it, they were all fiscal directors. There wasn't a single public works director on this YouTube. And so I just said fiscal office, because they try to give it back to us.
Not to hold you out, but if you
Yeah.
can find that YouTube video and share that with you.
Yeah.
that'd be good too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll make sure we get some resources together though, before it comes around next year. But it is ultimately a finance responsibility more so than a public works responsibility.
Any other questions on the legislative update? If not, environmental planning, funding opportunities, Christine?
Thank you, Chairman. I'll be filling in for Christine. Next 2 slides. So NVCOG is pleased to share 3 environmental funding opportunities for your municipality to consider. The first is called the Trees for Communities program with a due date of August 31st. The grant can be used to plant trees on public or private land, clear invasives, or engage the community around urban forestry. Eligibility is determined by a CT deep map that designates certain census blocks where projects can occur. Awards will be up to $200,000 and no map is required. The next 2 grants are some of DEEP's most popular annual offerings. The Open Space and Watershed Land Acquisition Program, or OSWA, is due November 3rd and is open to all municipalities. This grant requires a 75-25% split of the fair market value to purchase land for publicly accessible open space. You'll want to start this process early as 2 appraisals are needed in addition to a detailed grant application. Many of our communities have received these grants in the past, and congratulations to Bristol for their OSWA award announced last month. Finally, the Urban Green and Community Garden Grant is available to distressed environmental justice and targeted investment communities. The program provides funding to develop or enhance urban green space for public enjoyment or environmental education. A 50% match is required and applications are also due on November 3rd. NVCOG staff would be very happy to assist towns with any of these funding opportunities. We can write portions of the narrative, create maps, or submit a support letter. We look forward to bringing more funding for the environment into our region. Next slide. Any questions on those?
On those 2, again, not to, maybe it helps other, communities, we were looking at doing like a pocket park in our downtown area. And they, eventually, we even have a meeting today, we were gonna go for a grant for the trees, but it almost seems the urban one would also be for like a downtown pocket park.
Yeah, we can look into that. Yeah. Okay. I'll note that down. Any other questions? Okay. All right, so the next slide is for the Regional Waste Authority that we've been doing. So over the past year, NVCOG and our consultant Tetra Tech have worked closely with CEOs and public works staff on a Regional Waste Authority study. This study analyzes several alternatives for regionalizing waste management services, considering the capacities and constraints of each municipality. A draft was distributed to all CEOs on July 25th with a reminder sent on August 1st. Written comments are due on August 15th, at which time Tetra Tech will compile the final report. Although comments are still pending, the top 3 recommendations at this time are to 1, organize a new RWA, 2, join an existing RWA, or 3, a no-build scenario where NVCOG continues to offer limited opt-in services like household hazardous waste collections If you'd like to review the draft study, please speak with your CEO to obtain the document. We look forward to sharing a finalized version in early fall and hopefully having a decision from the board on how to move forward around the same time.
Is there any way we could get a copy of the document? I know our chief elected officials are busy and with the volume of their emails.
We could share that with you, but, any feedback that you may have
Has to
has to
come
go through the
Yep.
CEO.
If I could just jump in there for a second, Tom, that right now is in draft form, Jer, so if you guys think you might wanna comment on it before it gets into final form, that would probably be worthwhile. Otherwise, we expect to have some comments from the CEOs at our meeting next week. Maybe we
Okay.
share it in between then and the full board meeting. That way you can kind of get back with your CEOs. That would probably be the best bet. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
if anyone else is interested in seeing that, you could let, Drew or I know.
We can simply share it with TTAC, I think, but
Yeah.
probably better after the committee meets next week to do that, just to see whatever changes they make, so you don't have some of the same comments that they may have.
Any other questions or comments? Next item, open discussion, thoughts on future speakers, Kate.
Yeah. Hello again. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is really just an opportunity for folks to think about what type of speakers we could invite to these meetings going forward. I know last time we had representative from Safe Routes to School. It's always great to have T2 represented, but are there any other speakers, any other topics we could cover? Whether it's in this forum here, or even if we were to do some lunch and learns, we can definitely make some connections with other organizations and try to bring some more, some knowledge sharing here to these meetings. So I was just hopeful that if anyone had any additional thoughts, we could maybe make some of those presentations or happen.
I think that is a good, discussion, point, if they, maybe for all the communities, even the ones that aren't here, if you send out a request directly to the, TTAC members and all the, solicit comments, that way also. Because I do think that, what one community is going through, chances are there's another one, yeah?
Yep. And if you think of any, please send it to myself or to Kevin. This is a great forum to share, like you said, to have those conversations.
Anybody have, just a topic, once again, if not, if you think of something later, you can contact a, NVCOG representative. Just before we go on to the next item, just anybody going to APWA in Chicago? Any town? Waterbury, send anybody? I'm going for personal. Not this weekend, the following weekend. That conference does have a lot of information. I don't go every year. I go, have been going every other year, and last one I went to was very informative. Any other items to come before the committee? If not.
Yeah, right. This is Mark. I just want to mention real quick. I think the last TTAC I'd mentioned something about the status of our two federal discretionary grants, the RAISE project and the PROTECT project, and I mentioned that they're kind of being delayed and we weren't sure when they were going to move forward. The good news is actually both are proceeding and advancing pretty aggressively now. We have a agreement with Federal Highway on the PROTECT project. We actually have already opened up the federal portal to manage the project. So we just have to wait for headquarters to execute the agreement for us to get started, but that's looking like we're going to get started with that real soon. We issued an RFQ for consultant services to work on that. So, that one we're hoping to get started real soon. The RAISE grant is moving along as well. We had some back and forth with Federal Highway on our grant agreement. We, addressed some of their comments, made their edits. And now that agreement has been sent back to headquarters for their final review and hopefully execution. So again, both projects look like they're actually going to go. We were a little pessimistic earlier in the year, but right now it looks like both are going to proceed. We're hoping that RAISE project, which is design of the sections of the Naugatuck River Greenway Trail, that may actually get started around October 1st. And we've already gone through the process of selecting a consultant. And so the next step will be, reaching out with the preferred consultant now and going through negotiations. But just a quick update that, both are moving forward. So good news.
Thank you. Thank you for that update. Any other items to come before the committee? If not,
Good question. Is COG aware of any upcoming CMAQ grants or local road accident reduction programs, or are they kind of dead in the water right now?
We are aware that they are not coming up, yes. So local road accident reduction program will probably not resurface in its old format. And the department has been working on trying to adjust the way CMAQ is handled to better, to ensure that projects can be delivered in a more timely manner and that project costs are more reflective of the reality that we're seeing out there now. We have no, we don't know when the next CMAQ solicitation will happen. It's been coming soon for 2.5 years now, and so it'll probably be a while still, would be my guess.
Right now, the main vehicle is Watson.
Yep. Yeah, so there are, there's other programs out there. If you have projects that you want us to kind of shop around at DOT to see what's out there for them, please let us know. But right now, the best, most reliable funding source is going to be Watson.
any additional comments? That, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody. The next meeting is October 1st.
Take care.
Thank you.
Have a good day, everyone.